All right. Hi everybody. I am of course late because this little guy was not being cooperative as I was setting up for this live. But that's okay because we're here now and I think he's in a more cooperative mood. So what I wanted to, well, first of all, I hope that you guys can all hear me okay because I do have, I don't have all the same equipment. Hey, come back here. I don't have the same mic I usually use for this, so I'm going to try to talk loud and I hope everybody can hear me. If you have questions, I will address them later. I can see comments as they pop up when I do live this way, but I'm not close enough to read them. Okay, so what we're going to do is I wanted to show you a couple of the things that I talked about yesterday. So yesterday I came on here and I talked to you guys about how I've been managing him during a family emergency. And a couple of the things that I mentioned was that his crate training has been imperative to the success over the last couple weeks, and that he has spent a lot of time playing with my other dogs, but also with me and my family, because I don't want all of his fun to come from only other dogs. I want some of his fun to come from me as well. So the two things we're going to talk about today are crate training and playing with toys, which is what he's keeping himself busy with right now. Now I put a poll up inside our Facebook group, Train Your Service Dog with Confidence, a few weeks back. And I wanted to know what you guys were struggling with when it comes to training your young service dogs in training. And some of the things we're going to talk about a couple of those things today, including jumping and play biting. And then tomorrow and Thursday, we're going to start getting into some of those top challenges that you guys are having, walking on a leash, maintaining focus, introducing public access, stuff like that. We're going to get into that in the next couple of days because we are going to be starting our free puppy raising workshop on Thursday. So we're really going to start diving into some of these things. Now, today, I want to really hit the crate training and the playing with toys because they're two of the things that I talked about yesterday, how imperative they've been to his success over the last couple of weeks when his training came to a screeching halt. And because these two things really help with a lot of the challenges we have with puppies. So when it comes to working with a puppy especially, I always think about what do I want the dog to do. So that's one of the pieces of advice that you hear from me regularly. Saying how do I get my puppy to stop play biting isn't really the right question. The right question is what do I want my puppy to do instead? And this is really important for all of your service dog's training. It doesn't matter how old your service dog is or what you're working on, that holds true. But with a puppy, it's kind of especially important because this little guy, for example, so he's going to be, what are you going to be, 11 weeks tomorrow? He's going to be, I think, 11 weeks old tomorrow. He's just a baby. So when he play bites, he really just doesn't understand that there's a better way to play with people. So one of the most important things that I find with puppies is to teach them how I do want them to play. And how I do want them to play is with toys, not with my hands. And this is really helpful for play biting, and it's also really helpful for getting that puppy energy out so that they sleep when you want them to sleep. And it impacts crate training because we really want our puppies tired when we put them in their crates. So what I have here, and you can see he's pretty interested in his toys. He's only missed his toy and gotten my hand once since we started talking. But I have two of them, so these are identical. There's a bungee in here, so there's some give, there's a handle. I ordered these, they're Clean Run toys from cleanrun.com. But I have two of them, so they're identical, and they're also nice and long. So you can see he's playing with his toy and it's very far away from my hand. So I don't run into the problem as often where if we were playing with a short toy and my hand was right by his mouth all the time, he'd be more likely to hit my hand. So when it comes to playing with a puppy, so just there, he got my hand, nothing fun happened, and he's moved on to the toy because he knows that that's where the fun happens. So I have two because I want for him to start learning right away to drop it, and I like to teach that by switching. So we'll be playing with this toy, and you can see he's gotten quite into his playing with toys. I'm gonna have this hand go still, so this one gets boring, and this one will become more fun. So now, good! So now that he has switched to the new toy, I can start to add a word. So now I could say, drop it. make this toy go live. Good job. And then what happens is the word drop it starts to predict that toy number 2 is going to become exciting. Now, I don't like to add the word until I have the behavior, which is switching the toys. Drop it. Nice. Get that toy. And get it. Drop it. Good. So you can see he's already, and he really hasn't had a whole lot of practice with this, he's already learning that the word drop it predicts that the other toy is going to become fun and exciting. So he starts to let go of the toy in his mouth on the word drop it so that he can play with the one that's going to be more exciting. Now the other thing when it comes to playing with a puppy is, so here he's on my hand, it doesn't hurt, so I'm ignoring it, and as soon as he gets back to the toy, nice! As soon as he switches back to the toy, then the fun things happen. So when he bites my hand, nothing fun happens. When he bites the toy, lots and lots of fun things happen. And so this is how he's been learning not to play bite, and he did go through a bit of a play biting phase when we first got him, but he's really come out of it pretty nicely. And of course it could resurface as he gets a little older, but he's come out of it really nicely, primarily because playing with toys is so fun that that's how he initiates play with me, is by trying to get me to play with a toy. Now I also like these really long toys, not just because of the play biting thing, look, but also because I can drag them along the floor and encourage him to chase them. Now of course over there on the tile I'm going to be extra careful because I don't want him to slip, but over here on the carpet or outside I can really encourage him to chase it, and then I can help burn off that excess energy. Now if you have a long enough toy you can do this standing up as well, so I can drag this toy along the ground, get it, there we go, even while, oh no, you're too fast for me, even while I'm standing up, and I can get him moving around. And this is really helpful because a tired puppy is generally a good puppy, unless your puppy is overly tired and needs a nap. Now that is where we sometimes do run into a bit of a play biting problem with this guy, is when he gets really, really overtired, he can kind of turn on that like terror mode, right, where he just loses it, for lack of a better explanation. And he's running around, he's biting everything that moves, and he won't redirect to a toy. And that's generally when I know he's overly tired and he needs a nap. So puppies require a lot of sleep. It's something like, the last number I read was like 20 hours of sleep a day. So if we have 24 hours in the day, only 4 of them should really be him up and moving around. The rest of them should be him sleeping, because he's growing and he needs that sleep. So one of the reasons I like to have let me back up there again. The reasons I love having 2 long toys like this is because it's great for the play biting and it's great for getting excess energy out. Now I want his excess energy out, so you can see he is learning to self-regulate. He's decided he's a little tired, so he's gonna lay down on the cool tile. But one of the reasons, especially with a puppy between sort of 9 and 12 weeks, is I want to only put him in his crate when he's already a little bit sleepy, because that's going to make him more likely to be successful inside his crate. Now I'm going to kind of show you a couple of crate training tips here. Now he is already crate trained. Inside my academy I'm going to have videos for my students. I do have videos of his first couple of crate training sessions. So he is already crate trained, but I'm going to kind of show you through some of this anyway. He did crate train very easily. Some puppies aren't quite so happy to just jump on my training plan and go with it. He crate trained very easily. But what I have here is the larger crate we've been using for him. And let me just grab some of my food. When I crate train a puppy for the first time, all I do is throw some food in and out so he can get comfortable going in and out. Now again, he is already crate trained. He knows how to go in and be quiet. He's comfortable in his crate. But even if he wasn't, this is what we would start with. Just kind of tossing some food in, letting him find it. I just like to start building a positive association. I want him to be comfortable going in and coming out. I want him to be comfortable in the crate before I do anything else. Now, he only needed a couple of sessions before I was able to put him in for the night. But some puppies need kind of a whole day's worth. So when I bring home a new puppy, this is the first thing that we do is crate training, because sometimes this takes multiple sessions throughout the day. So I've given him, a bunch of treats or food. Oh, get back in there. And I can see from his body language that he's happy and comfortable walking in and out. So now I might try closing the door just for a moment and then giving him a treat. And I say treat out of habit, this is just his dog food. So now we could practice closing the door just for a moment or two at a time so that he starts to get more comfortable with the door being closed. And again, he's already comfortable with this, but this is exactly how I introduced the crate to him in the first place. Very good. And then we can just start to close it for another, you just slowly lengthen the amount of time. Now, a couple of other crate training tips are, again, I don't put a puppy in their crate unless they're already tired, because then they're more likely to lay down, go to sleep, be calm, things like that. And I also put them in there with something to do. So when I close this door for the first time, we're gonna say for real, when I actually put him in there to be left, not left alone, but where I'm actually gonna confine him in his crate for the first time, I want him tired and I want him to have something to chew on. And that is generally the easiest thing. Now, and for him, it was 2 weeks, I think, before I put him in the crate when he wasn't tired. So now, for example, I can just pop him in his crate, give him something to chew on any time of day, and he'll be quiet over, his crate is over in the corner of this living room generally. And he'll be nice and quiet because he's comfortable with his crate. But in the beginning, I really did only put him in his crate when he was already tired. Now, at a slightly more advanced level is where we can get into some manners. So having him sit before he comes out, going in without me throwing the food in, for example. Susan Garrett has a DVD called Crate Games, which is fantastic. It teaches all sorts of important skills, all sorts of important behaviors, and it really, really teaches your dog to love their crates. And again, for anybody watching, I can see your comments pop up, and I will answer, if you have questions, I'll answer them here in a minute because I can't read them from this far away. So Susan Garrett's Crate Games DVD is really, really great. Inside the Academy, I have the first couple levels of Crate Games, but really her DVD goes well beyond what I teach. But generally, Crate Games is where we start to get rid of this type of behavior, where he's, trying to dig his way out. He's not anxious, he just knows I have food. So he is at a point now where we have not formally done Crate Games. That's something we're gonna start later this week. But I have been waiting for him to sit before I open this door, because we have done a sit training session in the past, and even though we haven't been doing training sessions the last couple of weeks, we have been, good puppy, giving him attention and food for sitting down. So when he sits, okay, very nice, then that's when I let him come out of his crate. Good puppy. I know. Here, why don't you go back in there? So this is the kind of thing where you can see he's not had much for formal training in the last couple of weeks because I've had this family emergency. And so this is the type of behavior where I need to teach him to be calm and polite around food, because he obviously isn't. But this is the kind of thing where I'm a little bit behind. Because I had a family emergency and I wasn't able to train him for the last 2 weeks, we're a little bit behind. So like that behavior you just saw there, he's mugging me, he's trying to dig the food out of my hand, he's very rude when I have food in my hands. This is something I'm a little bit behind on, and I'm gonna have to catch up now, but that's okay. As I talked about in my video yesterday, sometimes life happens and it gets in the way of our dog's training. So when I have food, you saw him turn into a little maniac. In the last couple of weeks, he's become extremely comfortable in his crate. He's become very good at playing with toys. And so to me, those were more important than his formal training at this time. Okay, so I'm gonna come a little bit closer and see if you guys have any questions. I hope you're gonna be good in there. He's probably gonna turn me into a liar, because that's what the dogs really like to do. Okay, so every now and then when I touch the screen, I get myself into trouble because I'm using my cell phone. But I'm going to hopefully not have any problems, and I will get your guys' questions here answered. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, who has some questions? Okay, so I'm going to stick to questions today that have to do with some of the things that we've talked about, but I'm going to be on here a lot in the next week or so answering some of your questions. So Tammy has a question about how do you create a strong bond with a disabled daughter when half clicker and toileting and other training will be handled by her parents? So we'll come back to things like this, but one of the things I think people overly worry about is building a relationship with the right person in the family. Now, don't get me wrong, because I can hear people panicking already. Relationship building is extremely important. But for example, when you are training a service dog for a child in the house, your child generally cannot do all the training. And there will be a point in time where you will then transfer a relationship you have built to somebody else. I spend up to 2 years with the service dogs I train. Drake lived in my house for 18 months before he moved in with somebody else. And that relationship has transferred to that person. So in general, especially when you guys have puppies, don't panic too much. Work on the relationship. Make it an active thing you're working on, but try not to panic about it. So with children, my general rule, without knowing you or your child, is parents teach behaviors, and then children can practice behaviors that are already known. So for example, you will teach your puppy to sit and teach your puppy to lay down, and then once the puppy already knows those things, then your child can practice those behaviors, and that can help with relationship building. Okay. So then Carolyn has a question. When it's time to get in the crate, my puppy struggles to want to. I think I'm not meeting her needs, or she wants more time and freedom. She likes her crate, but she is hesitant at times, like to say she wants something else or is disappointed to be put away. So first of all, yes, I hear you in there making a racket with your bowl. First of all, when you guys have young dogs, they absolutely need to be reinforced for going in their crate almost every single time they go in there. So I never put him in his crate without giving him either a small handful of food or giving him something to chew on, which is, I think I'm going to do really quick. Let me go grab him something to chew. So this is one of the bones I talked about yesterday. I bought this pre-stuffed with something. I don't know what the ingredient list is in here, but there's something in there for him to chew on. And I supervised him chewing on this before I ever let him have this unsupervised. Whenever you give your dog something to chew on, it's very important you know it's safe for their chewing style before you leave it in there with them unsupervised. But at this point, my puppy is not ever being put in his crate without either being reinforced with food or being given something like this to chew on. So he doesn't have access to this bone when he has free time in the house. He only gets it in his crate. So generally, if your dog doesn't want to go in the crate, it's because she's not seeing the value. She doesn't like the behavior. It needs to be reinforced more. So I would say it probably would start with making sure you're reinforcing her more often for going in the crate. There we go. Okay, Stacy says, what do you leave? Toys, antlers in the crate for him to play or be occupied with? Okay, so that's a good question. And it really depends on your dog's chewing style. So I have supervised this guy chew a lot. I know that this bone is safe for him to have. He can have antlers in short spurts. And then I have a couple of, I don't see them handy, a couple of rubber toys that I leave in with him. The rubber toys are really helpful for teething puppies. If you buy the ones, if you have a puppy, if you buy the ones that are specifically for puppies, those can be really great options to leave in the crate unsupervised. But what you leave with your dog really depends on your dog's chewing style. So every vet has a different opinion about what is safe for your dog to have. unsupervised and what is not. So I have dogs in my house who can chew safely on antlers, who can chew safely on real bones, so like that's like some kind of marrow bone that has been cleaned and stuffed. I have dogs who can have nylobones. I have one dog who can safely chew rawhide, even though I do not recommend rawhide because it has to be, if your dog swallows it, it generally has to be surgically removed from their stomachs. So it depends on how your dog is chewing. If he chews with the intention of breaking a piece off, then something like a nylobone or an antler can do quite a bit of damage to your dog's teeth. If your dog is more of a recreational chewer, like this guy is at this point in his life, where they're kind of a softer chewer, then they can have just about anything. Or they can have more things like nylobones or rawhides, and you don't have to worry quite so much about their teeth. Frozen Kongs can be really great, as can the bone I just showed. Oh, he knows how to, he accidentally loses it a lot. He pushes it out of his crate. These types of bones you can also fill, so like once he gets this all cleaned out, I'll actually go buy some of that dehydrated sojos, rehydrate it, put it in these bones, and then freeze them. And that will give him something to chew on. Now you can also do the same thing with Kongs, depending on your dog, his chew style, all that kind of stuff. But I really like frozen, anything that you can put in a Kong or something like this, and freeze solid, because it will take your dog longer to get it out, and that can really help to keep them busy. Okay. So then, Zach has a question about Susan Garrett crate games. Loves the crate games. Can you start them at an early age? Or would you advise specifically waiting for a certain like behavioral marker or something like that? I have introduced crate games to puppies as early as like 8 weeks old. As soon as the puppy is comfortable going in and out of the crate, because in Susan Garrett's crate games, you wait until your dog, you close the door, wait for your dog to sit, and then open the door and give him a treat. So what I want to make sure is that my puppy isn't at a point where he's going to panic when I close the door before I start Susan's crate games. Otherwise, though, you can start them as young as you'd like. So the only reason he hasn't started them yet is because I haven't done any training with him, because I've been out of town, and I talked about it with you guys yesterday. So I have seen crate games go really well for very young puppies. If your dog really struggles with the sit part, then sometimes if you teach the sit separately and then go back to crate games, that can be really helpful. All right, any other questions? Because I think those are all the ones that popped up on my screen. Whoops, okay. Perfect. Well, I am not seeing any other questions right now. So what we're going to be doing is, like I said, Thursday formally starts the puppy training workshop. But I will be live on here again some point tomorrow. And we have the poll going in the group Train Your Service Dog with Confidence. So we are going to be talking about your top concerns or training challenges coming up in the workshop. So far, I wrote them down. We have a handful of very good topics at the top. So stay tuned, because we are going to be talking about more of this stuff tomorrow. Not next week, tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so I'll answer these two quick questions, and then I will head out for the day. So Valerie says that her long rope toys lasted 15 minutes. What should she do? This is not a toy that this puppy ever gets unsupervised. These are for play with humans only. What he gets unsupervised are things like this bone. Here they are. Coming back. He gets these two things unsupervised because he doesn't try to destroy them. So he gets stuff like this when he's not playing with me. These are toys he only gets. They live in this bag on a shelf unless he's actively engaged with me or another human. So for a lot of dogs, it's about categorizing your toys into play toys and things that keep the puppy busy when you're not paying attention, or actively engaged with them. Okay, and then Juliana said, what can I do with a hyper labradoodle when I have guests? That is a very big question. So there's a huge training answer behind it, but for management purposes, I would make sure that your labradoodle has some exercise before your guests come over, and that's where crate training comes in. So, there it is. I told you he was going to turn me into a liar. We have had family come to the house in the last couple weeks who can't be around puppies for various health issues and things like that. And so we've utilized crate train, the crate. He has been in his crate when we have guests over quite often, because we haven't had guests that were suitable to interact with the puppy. So I think that crate training should be a huge priority for people, because you never know when you're going to need it, is primarily the thing is. When we have a puppy, we all figure we'll use the crate a whole bunch. But I really like to keep up with my adult dog's crate training, because you never know when there's going to be an injury, you're going to have to travel. You just never know when you might need your dog to be crated when you weren't expecting it. So I think that crate training is should be a huge priority for everybody, to have a dog who will lay down calmly in their crate and be content and quiet when we need them to be. Cool. All right, well, that is it for today. So I will see you guys at some point tomorrow, which I will announce ahead of time once I get things figured out. And then Thursday, we will be starting our puppy raising workshop. So I will see you guys later.